Welcome back to the CryptoLabs YouTube channel. We got Mace back on the channel. Your content literally does better than mine, so we got to bring you back more often. Talk about the
YouTuber.
5 things that you need to get into this DeFi game. Maybe more geared towards someone who's maybe a little newer into this crypto DeFi game, but I think this video will be really relevant. Colin, you do a great job of really on ramping people into crypto DeFi. Like you're literally the best at it. You can take someone from I got no idea what I'm doing to full out crypto DeFi making momentum in a really short period of time. So I thought we could talk about that. I'll kind of give you the mic and let's see where this goes.
Great. Yeah, Lucas, thank you. I had a fast track call. Fast track call is like a one-on-one client that we have inside the Underdog investor group, right? And we basically did this, basically walked through the 5 things that you need to have set up. And so before you deploy capital, there really is we need to establish a strong foundation of skills and things we actually need to set up, meaning clicking the buttons and getting things set up prior to actually deploying capital and getting into something. And my thinking is that most people try to skip this. They try to go through this as fast as humanly possible so that they can get to the fun part, which is deploying capital and earning rewards and providing that service in DeFi.
Money.
But I really encourage you to slow down, master these 5 things first. That way, when you start to deploy capital, it feels good and you have that confidence. And so that's what I did on the call yesterday. Basically, to summarize it, to kind of condense that hour-long call down here into like the next 5 minutes here is there's 5 things. Number one, it's wallets. You need to be able to set up wallets. You need to have you don't have to. There's other ways of doing it, but having a centralized exchange or a way to on-ramp your fiat currency, US dollars, pesos, yen, whatever it might be, right? We're trying to convert fiat currency into a crypto asset. Then we need to be able to send that crypto asset to a hot wallet. Now, a hot wallet or a browser wallet is like MetaMask or Rabby or XDeFi or SafePal. It's a wallet that sits on our browser and allows us to connect to different decentralized applications, like different projects and different platforms, right?
And there's so
we
many
have
different
to
wallets,
have that bridge.
just so people know. So that's less relevant. But if you're watching this, just make a little mental checklist. It's like, yep, got it. Yep, got it. And see, maybe you're missing a checkbox or two. I think going back to the fundamentals and the beginner stuff is never beyond us, ever, ever, ever. So use this as a refresher, or maybe if you're newer to this space, grab a free course because we do go over some of this in way more detail. Actually, we go over all of it, but at the same time, make a little mental checklist. So wallets, centralized exchange, hot wallets, we can connect to dApps.
Yep. Then you need to on-ramp. This is an important piece. And what I really wanted to educate everybody here too, is that when you're on-ramping, when you're buying crypto and you're going and you're with the idea of like, I want to invest in some DeFi positions or I want to deploy into DeFi positions, we want to get the native coin in our wallet that we want to operate on, right? And so if I want to operate on the Optimism chain, I have a silly metaphor here, but if I want to operate on the Optimism highway, well, I'll need a truck or a wallet that allows me to operate on that highway. So let's say MetaMask as the example. I set up my MetaMask that can operate on Optimism, but now my truck can't operate unless I have gas fees. And so I have to on-ramp ETH to be able to pay for gas fees on Optimism. So I have this little rule when we're setting this up of like, let's write down all of the chains that you want to operate on. Let's get wallets that are compatible with those chains, and let's get the native coins in those wallets so that we can operate prior to even thinking about deploying capital. Because if we don't have that set up, it's going to be really, it's going to be really tricky to be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
So that's number one. That's number two. Wallets. Yeah, wallets.
I'll link a couple of videos to that dives deeper into it.
Definitely. Yeah. And then the next couple is swapping and bridging. This is really important. And so I have a nice little saying in the UIG is make sure that we have the correct coins and tokens in the correct wallet on the correct chain. And it's like it's very simple, but like if you can just keep telling yourself that as you're moving assets and as you're doing things, it'll help you have more confidence and have a more understanding of what you're doing. And so if you're just thinking, okay, I'm trying to get into an ETH OP pool on Optimism. Okay, well, what do I need? I need to have ETH and I need to have OP in my wallet on Optimism. And so now you can start to go through a series of either on-ramping those assets and sending it to your wallet or swapping. And now I'm not going to go too deep into this, but this is just swapping assets that you have for assets that you want. And we use decentralized exchanges to do that. So again, this might be a review for some people, but for other people, this is a really big foundational piece is that, I have a centralized exchange, but it doesn't have OP. It doesn't have the asset that I want. what do I do? Do I open up a new centralized exchange to go hunt for that? Or do I use a decentralized exchange and swap what I do have, which might be ETH, for OP, which is the asset that I want? And so
Hint,
that's
hint.
swapping, and that's on the same chain, so on the same highway. When we're talking about bridging, it's a whole nother thing, is swapping assets from one chain to another, cross-chain swapping or cross-chain bridging, taking one asset on one chain, on one highway, and swapping it and bridging it to a whole separate highway. And Lucas, you and I talk about a lot about these highways. They're not interoperable. Like, they are their own silos, their own highways that are not connected. And so bridging a third-party service allows us to connect those highways in a sense where we can send packages from one highway to another highway, or one chain to another chain. And
I will
so
leave
that's
more
another
videos for that as
skill.
well. So anyone who's watching who's like, oh my God, I still need to work on that a little bit. There will be a video linked, or just again, grab the free course because we link out to all this kind of stuff in there as well.
Absolutely. And we have a challenge called the first dollar DeFi challenge in the UIG. And that is very similar to the free course you were just talking about, but it is literally a step-by-step to just master these 5 things. And the 5th one here, Lucas, is test pools. Test the pools. There's a lot of mechanics. There's a lot of things underlying it that there's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of intricacies when we talk about especially concentrated liquidity pools inside of DeFi. And so when we test pools, when we take $5 or $10 and we enter in a test pool on Matic and USDC, we can now learn, as the price of Matic moves, what does that do to the ratio of our assets? What does that do to the what does that do to my ranges, et cetera, et cetera. So really, really important that we set up those 5 things. Just to summarize, we have wallets, centralized exchange. We have our hot wallet, our browser wallet that connects to Dapps. Number 2, we have an on-ramp. We need that's more of an action. We need to on-ramp fiat into crypto assets. We need to get those crypto assets into our wallets. More specifically, we need to get the native coins in our wallets on the chains we want to operate on to pay for gas fees. Number 3, we want to practice swapping, which is trading assets from one asset that we have to the asset that we want on a decentralized exchange on the same chain. I know it's a lot. And then number 4 is bridging, sending assets from one chain into another chain. So a very quick example, I have ETH on Optimism, but I want Solana on Solana. I want Sol on Solana. That is a bridge there. That is a bridge. Now you can go through a centralized exchange, or you can go on a third-party decentralized bridge to be able to do that, right? And then number 5 is testing pools, finding a pool on a few different chains. And I like to recommend finding a nice simple pool, nice with a big TVL and big assets that you know about, finding them on a few different chains and practicing that, getting in and getting out, learning the mechanics, studying it, and understanding that if you test with $5, if the value of the asset goes down and you get out and you lock in that impermanent loss, that you're using that as your education, right? And so then when you go to deploy capital, right, Lucas, like when you finish that first dollar in DeFi challenge and you actually go to deploy capital in the DeFi portfolio challenge, now you have the confidence because you know how to set up the wallets, you know how to on-ramp, you know how to swap, you know how to bridge, and you know how to test and get in and out of pools. Now, when you find an opportunity that really speaks to you, you can deploy capital with confidence. And that's the essence of what we want to be doing.
So good. And I think 5.5 is, like you just said at the end, is just, if you are unsure, practice. Like, take $2 and just practice with it. That is the cost of your education, but it's better than inaction. I think that extremes, we've had some clients who have like 100K and they like deploy it within 24 hours, and I get completely freaked out because I'm like, do you even understand what you did? Well, not really. I'm like, hey, let's just reverse that and take our time. So there's the people like me who will take action before they think, and it can be costly. Or there's the people who never take action because they're so afraid of making a mistake. In the middle ground there's like hey, deploy a little, play with it, get your feet wet. If I'm looking for new pools, I'll get into 5 or 6 with $10 each just to test them out, feel it. If it's a new DEX or a new chain, I remember when Base came out, I start with a very small amount and you get more comfortable. So, absolutely. Or Pulse Chain, I remember that. It's just like, it was a new DEX, new chain. It's just like, let's just take our time with it. Let's feel it out. So that's kind of like a 5.5. See, appreciate your time. For anyone in here who wants free, we do have a free course. Grab it. If you're like, screw free, I just want to buy time, I want to buy speed, we do have the UIG. Within the UIG, we have the Your First Dollar in DeFi. The Your First Dollar in DeFi, you get live calls, you get support, you get live support, you get chat, you can ask your questions. We can actually help you hold your hand through it. And if you're not into that kind of stuff and you just want free, then hang out on this YouTube channel, grab the free course. You can figure it out yourself for sure. To me, I just value time and I just want time. And if
Yes.
someone can help get me there faster, because the opportunities are around forever. A lot of people, they just miss the juicy opportunities, then they get into it 3 weeks later. I'm like, we were talking about that stuff 4 weeks ago. Just get in now. So I think there is value to be said about the UIG in the community, but ultimately that's for you to decide. With that said, I'm going to leave some 4 videos on the 4 corners of your screen. I'll leave a video on bridging to base. That's a really great example on how to bridge. I'll leave some videos Colin has done regarding the highways and the different blockchains and his kind of framework around it. And then I'll leave some other opportunities down here. So do check them out. With that said, appreciate your time, C.